Have you ever stopped and really wondered why some women, well into their 70s, still feel a magnetic pull toward romantic companionship? Picture this: a woman in her golden years, silver strands catching the soft glow of twilight as she rocks gently on her front porch. There's a quiet sparkle in her eyes, not from nostalgia alone, but from a yearning that is very much alive. It's not about recapturing youth or filling empty hours. It's about something far more profound. A desire that has matured and deepened, like fine wine or an old song that still stirs the heart. You see, love doesn't retire with age. If anything, it becomes more nuanced, layered with the richness of decades lived. For many women over 70, the search for a male companion isn't about desperation or loneliness. It's about connection. Real, soulful, meaningful connection. In this video, we'll explore 5 deeply personal reasons why women in their 70s and beyond continue to open their hearts to men. Each story we share is inspired by the lives of women who've weathered storms, laughed through decades, and still choose to seek joy. From the gentle process of healing old emotional wounds, to rediscovering self-worth, to the quiet thrill of new experiences, these reasons will challenge the narrow ideas many people hold about love and aging. This isn't about trying to rewind the clock. It's about writing new chapters. With laughter, with warmth, with courage. So stay with me. Because by the end, you may come to see aging not as a slow fade into silence, but as a vibrant, resonant crescendo. One where love is not only possible, but perhaps even more powerful than it ever was. First, emotional healing and second chances meet Clara. She's 76, with soft silver curls and kind eyes that have witnessed both joy and heartache. Life has given her many roles: wife, mother, caregiver, and through them all, she gave generously, often placing her own needs last. Her marriage, once hopeful and full of promise, quietly unraveled years ago. And later, just when love found her again, illness took it away. The loss carved out a hollow place in her heart, one that grief alone couldn't quite fill. But Clara's story isn't one of resignation. It's one of resilience. Because even now, with her 7th decade well underway, she hasn't closed the door on love. In fact, she's opening it with quiet courage. For her, seeking companionship isn't about chasing romance for its own sake. It's about healing. It's about rediscovering a part of herself that long sat tucked away behind responsibilities and sorrow. She doesn't long for whirlwind passion or fairy tale illusions. No, what she seeks is something steady, gentle, true, a connection that acknowledges her past without being burdened by it. A partner who listens not just with ears, but with his presence. Someone who can sit across from her at a small cafe table, warm cup in hand, and say, "Tell me about that time you lived in Chicago," with real interest, not just politeness. Picture her with George, a candid man who's lived through his own share of loss. Over coffee, they swap stories, not always dramatic, but deeply human. He doesn't shy away from her wounds. He sees how they've shaped her, and in return, she sees his. There's no rush, no performance. Just two souls, weathered yet open, offering each other grace. For many women like Clara, love in their 70s isn't about filling a void. It's about honoring their capacity to feel again. They're not looking to be rescued. They want a partner, not a project. Someone who walks beside them, not ahead or behind. This stage of life brings a kind of clarity that youth often lacks. There's no time for pretense. Every moment becomes more precious, every connection more intentional. Clara understands that this is a second chance, not to rewrite her past, but to create something beautiful from the present. And perhaps that's what makes love at this age so remarkable. It's love chosen freely, not out of obligation, pressure, or fear. It's love rooted in acceptance, in compassion, in the tender knowledge that scars don't make us less worthy. They make us more real. So if you see a woman like Clara stepping back into the dance of companionship, Know this, it's not a sign of weakness or loneliness. It's a quiet triumph, a testament to her heart's strength. She's not trying to relive her youth. She's living her truth, bravely, beautifully, and on her own terms. Second, the deep desire to feel valued and appreciated. Let's sit a while with Grace. She's 74. Though some days she feels younger, and other days, much older. Her reflection tells a story: silver curls neatly pinned, soft lines tracing decades of laughter, worry, late-night prayers, and early morning risings. Her hands bear the imprint of countless tasks, cooking meals on tight budgets, changing bandages for ailing parents, sewing buttons back onto little shirts that eventually grew into uniforms and wedding suits. She's lived a life of giving, of quiet service, of strength that was never loud, but always there. And for years, perhaps even decades, she was seen only through the lens of what she offered: a warm meal, a clean house, a listening ear. She was dependable, selfless, always there, but rarely, so rarely, did someone stop and look at her and say, "How are you doing, Grace?" Not out of politeness, but with real intention. Now, in the stillness of her later years, when the house is quieter and her calendar lighter, something old and unnamed begins to stir. A soft but insistent longing to feel appreciated, not for what she's done, but for who she is. She doesn't want praise for raising 4 kids or for all those years volunteering at church. She doesn't seek medals for the sacrifices she made. What Grace wants, what women like her often long for, is simpler and far more profound. She wants to be seen, to have someone look into her eyes and see her, not the mother, not the caregiver, not the widow, but the woman who still hums her favorite hymns while watering the roses. The woman who loves riddles and black licorice and always tears up when the choir sings Amazing Grace. The woman with a wicked sense of humor and a stubborn streak a mile wide. Enter Thomas, not a savior, not a fantasy, just a man with soft eyes and kind hands. He meets her at a community center dance, a place she nearly didn't go to. They share a slow waltz. He compliments the color of her dress, not to flatter, but because he means it. Over tea, she tells a story from her nursing days, a moment when she had to stay calm as chaos swirled around her. He doesn't interrupt. He doesn't compare. He simply listens. Then he says quietly, "That's incredible. You're incredible." That's when it happens. Not fireworks, not sweeping music, but something deeper, something that glows inside her like candlelight. For the first time in a long time, Grace feels like more than her titles, more than her usefulness. She feels like herself. She feels valued. And that is the beauty of companionship at this age. It's not about ego or youthful sparks. It's about recognition, about being told, not with words alone, but with presence, you matter. You're still vibrant. You're still captivating, just as you are. Love in your 70s isn't about recapturing something lost. It's about finally stepping into something true. A connection rooted in respect, in admiration, in the honoring of a life that still has so much to give. And Grace, she's not asking for a pedestal. She's asking for presence, for someone who notices when her smile fades, who sees her now, who holds her hand not out of pity, but with pride. Third, the call of excitement and new horizons. Let's turn the page now and meet Margaret. At 73, her knees may ache more than they used to, and she has to squint a little harder to read the fine print. But her spirit, it dances, it twirls, it refuses to sit still. Margaret is the kind of woman whose laughter you can hear before you see her. Her life has been full. 3 children, a part-time job at the local library, Sunday potlucks, PTA meetings, and countless loads of laundry. For decades, she gave her all to her family, her work, and her community. Her days were carefully stitched together with duty, routine, and care for others. But now the house is quieter, the calendar less full, and in that stillness, something stirs. It's not sadness, it's curiosity. It's that flutter in the chest that whispers, There's still more out there for me. Margaret doesn't dream of reckless adventures. She's not looking to skydive or race sports cars. What she craves is the spark, the sense of aliveness that comes from stepping outside of routine and into something a little unexpected. Enter Henry. He's not flashy, not loud. But when he speaks, there's a warmth to his voice that feels like sunshine on skin. They meet at a community cooking class. Neither of them particularly skilled in the kitchen, but as flour dusts the counter several and their noses, and they laugh over lumpy pasta dough, Margaret feels something unexpected, giddy joy. Not because she's trying to be young again, but because she's remembering what it feels like to be present, to try, to play. A week later, she and Henry take the train to a small coastal town she's never visited before. The air is salty and wild. The waves thunder against the rocks, and she holds onto the railing of a seaside pier with wide eyes, like a child seeing the ocean for the first time. This is the kind of companionship Margaret longs for, not a man who wants to settle down or take care of her. She's done the caretaking. What she wants now is someone to walk beside her into the unexpected, someone to share stories over campfires, to discover new jazz records with, to dance barefoot in the living room just because the music asked for it. She wants to laugh again, not at life, but with it. For women like Margaret, a relationship at this age is not about reclaiming youth. It's about reclaiming wonder. It's about writing new stories, rather than rereading the old ones. A man becomes not a savior, not a provider, but a co-adventurer. Together, they don't chase the past. They create moments that shimmer in the now. So if you ever see a woman in her 70s with a suitcase in one hand and someone special at her side, don't assume she's clinging to something she lost. Chances are, she's discovering something she never knew she needed, the thrilling possibility of what's still to come. Fourth, the quest for intellectual and social stimulation. Let's pause and spend some time with Lillian. She's 71, sharp as ever, with a bookshelf that's practically groaning under the weight of classic novels, historical biographies, and well-worn poetry collections. Her mind is a garden that refuses to go fallow. Even in retirement, her curiosity blooms. Lillian spent most of her adult life as a university lecturer, her days filled with lectures, debate, and the gentle chaos of student questions. But now, the lecture halls are quiet. The phone doesn't ring as often. The symphony of lively discussion has faded into silence. And though she enjoys the stillness of her home, something inside her stirs with restlessness. It's not loneliness exactly. It's something more specific, a hunger for conversation, not just polite exchanges or weather talk, but dialogue that crackles, words that challenge, ideas that stretch. Lillian doesn't miss the paperwork or the early mornings. She misses that feeling of her brain lighting up. She misses being surprised by a new perspective. So when she joins a local book club, it's not to fill her calendar, it's to feed her spirit. And that's where she meets Arthur. He's 75, with a deep voice and a thoughtful way of pausing before he speaks. On the surface, he's unassuming. But when the group begins to discuss Hemingway, something shifts. Arthur speaks up, not loudly, but with conviction. He challenges the group's assumptions. He quotes lines by heart, and for the first time in a while, Lillian feels awake. After the group ends, the two linger. They debate not just literature, but philosophy, travel, the ethics of aging, and even the best way to brew coffee. Lillian swears by French press. Arthur is a pour-over devotee. These moments, casual yet electric, remind her that connection isn't always about hearts fluttering. Sometimes, it's about minds meeting. For Lillian, a relationship isn't about being taken care of. It's about being intellectually engaged. She wants someone who sees her not as fragile or fading, but as vibrant and sharp, someone who still has so much to say. And beyond the mind, there's the need for social aliveness. Lillian knows the studies. Seniors who remain socially active live longer, happier lives. She's seen friends shrink into quiet routines, their worlds growing smaller with each season. She refuses that fate. So when Arthur invites her to a museum opening, she doesn't hesitate. When he texts her an article that made him think of their last conversation, she smiles. When they sit on a park bench dissecting current events, sometimes agreeing, sometimes not, she feels herself expand. For women like Lillian, love may or may not include roses and kisses. What it must include is mutual growth, shared curiosity, the joy of learning something new together. At 71, she doesn't want a mirror of herself. She wants a counterpoint. Someone who challenges her, engages her, walks beside her in the great conversation of life, because the soul doesn't age, and the mind, when nourished, it never dims. Fifth, the hunger for emotional connection. Now, let's return to Ella Lenina. She's 77. Her hands bear the gentle tremble of time, and her skin carries the softness of years well lived. Her home is quiet, filled with framed photographs, the ticking of a beloved old clock, and the subtle hush that settles when the world forgets to call. But her heart is anything but still. You might look at her and think she's content in her solitude. After all, she's lived a full life, raised children, buried a husband, managed a household, celebrated milestones and endured losses. But beneath the grace and composure lies a quiet truth. She misses being known. Not in a surface level, how's the weather kind of way, but truly known. She misses someone asking how she slept, noticing the songs she hums under her breath, remembering how she always chooses honey over sugar in her tea. That kind of knowing, the deep, soulful connection, is what she longs for. It's not about companionship for the sake of passing time. For Ella Lenina, it's about being emotionally seen. Because aging, for all its wisdom and perspective, can sometimes come with a cruel invisibility. People stop asking about your dreams. They talk to you slower, as if your mind has dimmed. They assume your days are behind you. But Ella Lenina knows better. She still laughs, her dry wit catching people off guard. She still cries, especially during old jazz records. She still feels the ache of memories, the twinge of longing when the wind smells like summer. And most of all, she still wants to share these moments with someone who understands their weight. Enter Harold. He's not flashy. He doesn't bring roses or sweep her off her feet. But he listens, really listens. When she speaks, he leans in, not just with his ears, but with his presence. He notices when her voice falters while talking about her late husband. He remembers the names of her grandchildren. He asks, gently, about her mother's pie recipe that she still tries to recreate each holiday. And in those tiny moments, in between cups of tea and quiet porch sunsets, something extraordinary happens. Ella Lenina feels recognized. Her stories matter again, her silences too. In her younger years, love may have been about building a home, raising children, securing a future. But now, it's about being met in the present. Fully, genuinely. She doesn't need perfection. She doesn't need a chiseled jaw or a retirement plan. What she needs is someone who holds space for her. Someone who reflects back her worth. Not in grand gestures, but in consistent care. For women like Ella Lenina, love is not a luxury. It's not a phase. It's a lifelong need. To be emotionally connected, to be known, to matter. And when that connection comes, whether it's through shared glances, familiar songs, or holding hands on a walk through the garden, she feels it. She's still here. She's still alive, and her heart, as ever, is still reaching out. Not out of emptiness, but from a well of love that never ran dry. As the sun sinks low on the horizon, casting long golden shadows across these stories we've shared, a quiet truth begins to shine through. One that society often overlooks. Love does not have an expiration date. Ella Lenina, Margaret, Clara, Lillian, and Grace, these women aren't chasing fantasies or trying to reclaim lost time. They're reaching for something real, something present. They seek connection not because they're afraid of being alone, but because their hearts are still vibrant with longing, curiosity, wisdom, and hope. They've walked through fire, loss, grief, sacrifice, silence, and emerged with softer edges but stronger cores. And now, in this chapter many assume is meant for retreat, they are choosing to lean forward instead. Each woman's journey reveals a unique thread in the tapestry of aging. Clara reminds us that even the most broken hearts can still open again. Grace shows us that being valued isn't vanity. It's a human need, deeply earned. Margaret teaches us that it's never too late to feel wonder, to seek joy in the unknown. Lillian reveals the quiet thrill of a mind still hungry for dialogue and connection. And Ililanena brings us back to the essence, the power of being seen and emotionally understood. Together, they defy every stereotype that says love is only for the young, or that passion fades with time. These women are proof that emotional intimacy, adventure, healing, intellectual companionship, and affirmation don't diminish. They deepen, they become more nuanced, more intentional, more real. So if you've ever wondered why a woman in her 70s might still open her heart to someone new, look closer. It's not desperation. It's courage. It's not nostalgia. It's vitality. It's not about filling a void. It's about sharing a life still rich with color. Aging doesn't mean fading. It means refining, distilling the noise into truth, choosing connection not out of need, but out of desire. The kind that says, I am still here. I am still worthy of love. And maybe that's what we all want, at any age. So now, I turn the question to you, which story moved you the most? Did you recognize a piece of yourself, or someone you love, in Clara's resilience, in Margaret's spark, in Grace's quiet yearning? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Share this story with someone who might need a reminder that love still blossoms in the most unexpected places, even and especially in the golden years. And if this journey stirred something in you, if it opened your heart even a little, consider subscribing. This is a space where we honor stories that matter, where age is not a limit, but a lens. Thank you for watching. Until next time, stay open, stay kind, stay connected.